So what I'm doing here is I'm going to sculpt a very generic character in Blender since most of us are home and many of my students do not have access to ZBrush. I think Blender's sculpting tools are a phenomenal alternative. So one of the things I love actually is this plugin. I'm going to jump on the switch over really quick to show that to you. So it can be found here at github.com/JNM JSculpt and he has his own YouTube channel where he does Blender videos, which are really good too. So if you need additional resources, I would definitely check that out. But if you go to clone or download here and you hit download zip, you can download it. I usually just throw mine on the desktop. So I already have it downloaded. And the way you load that into Blender is as follows. So here I am back in Blender. And if you go up to the top to File, and you go down to add-ons, let's see where I can file, or edit rather, sorry, preferences. And you go to add-ons here. Up at the top, you can go to install, and then navigate to where you have your JSculpt tools installed, and then hit install add-on. And give it a second, and you'll see that it pops up into your menu here. So you can see here I have Object JSculpt Tools. I'm going to check that on. The way you know that installed correctly is you'll get a little pop-up tab that appears on the side here. Now you have to do the following step, or it won't save it, so that every time you pop up or every time you open your program, the JSculpt tools appear. All right, so with these installed, and I'm going to show you, these do exist inside of here, but he's made them into a nifty table here. Tab rather, that will give you all these really great features. So for example, you could see there's an extract mask button. We're going to be using that a lot. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be sculpting. So what I did a search for was just ZBrush male écrochet. You can also type in ZBrush female écrochet, which we'll be doing. I'll probably do a whole nother series on that, and you just grab one of these. You can grab one of these images. The one image that I'm going to be using is this one right here, which is this very generic one. Actually, I'll probably end up using this one. Now I'm going to link to this. I'll link to this in the YouTube channel description. I'll also see if you could just download the images, if I can upload that. This gives us a very nice basic generic body to build from, right? It's nice and lean, it's the muscles. And then where we go from here is we start to, after we have this, we can go into looking at the way not just the muscles work, but how does the bone sit on top of it, things like this. Now, we're not going to be sculpting every striation, right? What we're going to be doing is looking for a base that we can do, like, let's say character turnaround, right? Where we can later add the joints, like elbows, things like that, where the bones protrude, you know, and the scapula and things like that. And then we'll add clothing, and then we'll bring it into Unreal, because that's another area that a lot of people are not too comfortable doing, is modeling, rigging, and bringing a character Unreal. And we'll probably do all the modeling, rigging, and skinning and all that good stuff in animation in Blender, just so you have that at home if you don't have access to the other tools, because Blender is free. All right, so I made a folder called Anatomy here. And inside of this folder, you can see I have that downloaded image here. I have a few others. I have this one I found online, which is really neat. It shows the planes of the body, which I like. Here's the female one for the next video. Here's a pretty cool Captain America one that I've seen somebody do that's just showing the breakdown. And then here's an over-exaggerated heroic character. And then I love this one. I would have initially used this one, but the front view they didn't give us a good front view for it. And then here's another simplified female turnaround. So let's go ahead and grab this guy right here. And all we're going to do is grab the image and drag it right into Blender. And let's close this out. Now, what we can do to navigate around this is I'm just clicking the middle wheel in on my mouse, or the Alt key on your keyboard, and the front nib of your pen, or just the front nib of your pen, depending on the type of Wacom. So that's how you would rotate, is just by clicking the middle wheel in, or the front, for me it's the front button on my nib. Now what I want to do here is click on this, and I'm going to press N as in Nancy, and I'm going to press to open up my side panel here. That's if you don't see this J-Sculpt here. And I'm going to go to Tool, and rather expand my workspace so I have that ready. And then I'm going to go to Item, and here's all of my transforms for my item. So for the rotation, I'm just going to do 0, tab, 0, tab, 0. And then you'll see that it zeroed it completely out. If I hit Control and A, let's see if we can select that again. If I hit Location, I can freeze it and snap it to the center of the scene. That's by hitting Control and A. You can see Location, and it gave me all zeros and all ones. What I want to do though is, if you look at the x-axis, I want to bring that up into the forefront. So I'm going to type in 90 in the x-axis, and then on my numpad, I'm going to press the 0 key. Now, the reason I started with 0 is because it's 0, 1, 2, 3, but you can see as I press 0, 1, 2, and 3, it gives me different views to snap from. So 0 is my perspective, 1 is my front view. So inside of object mode here, what I'm going to do is click the move tool, and I'm going to move this above the grid because I want it to be positive. Okay, now watch what happens if I hit Control A again, I hit scale, it freezes that. If I hit location, it snaps it back down. So these are just different ways of moving your object to where you want it to, and where it's really moving it to is to this cursor here. So let's kind of bring that up for a second. Now I'd also like to make this a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to drag this out and kind of line it up on the center here. Now I'm going to be moving this in a second because we're going to be entering sculpt mode. And let's make sure we have this selected as object, and I'm going to Control A and do all transforms to delta, and that freezes the location of it, or like it makes it all zeros and stuff. And we always want to make it we want to be able to hit 1, 1, 1 and remember the scale of it. You know, so no matter how big I go or small, I want it to all be to be able to return back to that size at once. So next I'm going to go to File. I'm going to click on Sculpting mode here, and what I want to do is I'm going to transform. I'm going to bring in a sphere. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. I'm middle mousing, and I'm going to hit the delete key. Now what I want to do is hit Control and A, or I'm sorry, Shift and A, and go to Mesh, and I want to bring in a UV sphere. Now right off the bat, this sphere is set up for symmetry, so we're going to have to move this to match this. So how do I know that? Well, if I go to my Sculpting tab, right, so I'm at Modeling here, Sculpting, notice as I go inside, or I move around here, it's lined up. And that's what I want, because I want to start sculpting this and using this for my head. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on X-ray mode here, so I could see inside of that. And I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to click Tab. That's a shortcut for this menu here, right? So I'm going to hit Control and Tab, and I'm going to go to Object mode. I'm going to make sure my sphere is selected, and I'm going to click on my Move tool. Now, let's go ahead and move it on the Y-axis all the way up. And let's take a look at, we have 6.7. So just kind of, I'm going to keep that open for a bit so you can just sort of see that. We are not moving it on the X and Y because we want that symmetry to be perfect. I'm going to select this. Well, actually, let's select this, and then we're just going to go to our Scale tool, and we're going to Symmetry scale it from the center. So I'm going to click in the middle there. Make sure that I have that selected. And then I'm going to go down. Another way of doing this is if you hit S out here, you can actually scale it like that. Alright, so that gives me the basic cranium structure. Let's select our empty here. Now if you're not able to select things in the screen, you might have to turn off Lock Object Materials, and that will unlock it. Lock Object Mode rather. So I'm going to hit 1 here, and I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to try to find the center point for my character here. Alright, now I'm going to hit 3, go to my side view, and I'm going to move that back so it's not interjecting too much. So let's move it back a lot more. So something like this. Yeah, and now here's our 3. So what I'm going to do is I want to rename this front anatomy ref, and then I'm just going to right click on that, and I'm going to copy, or you can hit Control C and Control V, and I'm going to name this one side anatomy ref. And in the Z axis, if we click on this, what you'll notice is, let's see, I think I'm looking for my Y. There we go. So let's go ahead and do 90 in my Y. And I'm going to move that over somewhere in the front here. I'm going to middle mouse click out here, and I want to move that outside of my sphere so I could see that. Let's hit 3 again. I'm going to move this back here, like that. And I want to make sure that it's the same height, so it's zeroed out there. And something like this. Now let's take a look. Let's hit 1 again, and let's select our sphere, and we're going to make this the top of our cranium. So this gets a little, you have to kind of get used to this if you're used to Maya or ZBrush or whatever. So now if I want to pan, I hold Shift and I middle mouse click. So middle mouse click to rotate, to zoom in and out the wheel, Shift and pan. You'll get used to all of this. So let's go ahead and select both of these here, and I'm actually going to move this. Let's see if we can move this underneath this guy. And our sphere is here, which looks good. Okay, so now with our sphere selected, what we're going to do is, I'm going to save this video as setup, and then we'll come back to it later.